Welcome to the Fort Polk podcast. We are thrilled to announce the new commander of the Bayne-Jones Army Community Hospital, Colonel Alisa Wilma. A dedicated and highly experienced leader, she has served in the U.S. Army for around 25 years and brings invaluable knowledge and expertise to our team. Colonel Wilma is committed to providing superior health care services to our soldiers and their families. She understands the importance of providing quality medical care and is eager to lead the BJACH team in achieving excellence. We are fortunate to have her experience and guidance as we work together to make the hospital the best it can be. Today, we're going to get to know her a little better, so let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are listening to this podcast. I am Jeff England from the Fort Polk, soon to be Fort Johnson Public Affairs Office. And today I have two special guests with me, Colonel Alisa Williams from the Bayne-Jones Army Community Hospital. She is the new commander. Welcome. Thank you for coming on over. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
And I remembered your mic wasn't to open it. It's usually a bad thing. And she brought in her wonderful husband, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Butler from the United States Army Reserve's JAG office. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
That's good to hear. That's good. It's always better to be good than to the other end of the coin.
Very
the other end of the spectrum. There we go. It's a spectrum. Everything's on a spectrum nowadays. You can't just be yes or no. No, it's kind of a yes and no answer.
That's a grad school thing.
Yeah, something like
depends.
It depends.
Hey, I think our line as an attorney.
So welcome. So you've been here for like maybe a couple days now, and
about 9 or 10.
9 or 10 days. Nice. So what do you think of it so far?
Love it.
And if the rumor has it correctly, you are our very first veterinarian to be commander of BJACH.
Cat's out of the bag.
That is so cool. How did you swing that? We didn't even know the veterinarian service was part of BJACH.
So we're not actually, the veterinary service isn't actually part of BJACH, but the veterinary services inside the Army, just like medical service, med service corps, specialist corps, dental corps, we are all in one large pool of medical professionals. And so when they put out the command select list and we all compete, there are some jobs that are coded specifically for, say, nurses or dentists or veterinarians. And then there are some jobs that are branch immaterial. The idea that at a certain level, leadership is leadership. It doesn't matter. It just happens that as we've gone through changes in structure and force management, these jobs have recently started to open up. So, and as far as Paul and I have been able to research, it's not just Bayne-Jones. I'm the first Army veterinarian to ever command a military hospital.
Wow, that is so cool. So how do you feel?
A little like Ted Lasso.
Nice. And to top it all off, that's not the only first that you'll be doing. You're also going to be the first BJACH commander of Fort Johnson.
Yep.
So you got a double whammy right there with the first of both.
Absolutely.
That is so cool. So we're starting it off right on the right foot.
Absolutely.
Or the right hoof or the right paw or
like I said, on some level the jokes write themselves. They really do.
Oh goodness. So Paul, how do you like it here so far?
Well, it's certainly warmer than Maryland.
Oh, absolutely. Just a little. Just wait until August.
Oh, I know.
Oh yeah.
But we were previously stationed at two assignments before we were stationed at Fort Sam Houston. So also warm, but it's a drier heat.
Yeah, the dry heat. I can handle the dry heat, but around here it's like walking into a sauna. It's like you walk outside, and I have a problem. So, I mean, you walk out, or if I walk outside, it looks like I just jumped out of a pool. It gets bad. And then the National Guard around here, their 2 weeks of active duty is usually in the summer. That way, the kids that are in school still can participate in the 2 weeks, and that's when we would always have our operational readiness exercises. So we would have to go around in MOP 4 which for people that out there that don't know, is full chemical suits and gas masks. And we'd have to walk around and work in the August heat in full Mop 4 gear and for like hours on end. And I think they did that on purpose so the inspectors wouldn't want to hang out that much. But anyway, yeah, I digress. I think I look back fondly on my career in the military, both active duty and National Guard, which is I'm now in the Ready Reserves. Well, the retired Ready Reserves. So that's nice.
Awesome. No, I happen to like the heat. One of the family jokes is we moved out of South Texas to Kuwait because South Texas wasn't warm enough. So I keep waiting. Everybody's like, "Oh, wait, it'll hit you," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm getting there," because I'm always chronically cold.
I wish I could handle this heat.
Oh, and see, I can't handle the cold. I'm just always gloves and coats. And in fact, the air conditioning half the time drives me nuts.
Oh, so. You'll love it around here then, because the air conditioning either works really, really, really well, or it doesn't work at all. It's either on or off, black or white, right or wrong.
There we go. Unlike it depends.
Yes, and unlike it depends. It depends on how warm. It's not on a spectrum. You've got on and off, and that's it.
So there we go. I found the exception that proves the rule.
Exactly. So we have some background. We've shared a couple of assignments, or at least one. We were both at Vicenza in Italy. Well, you were at Camp Darby. So
actually, I've won the Army lottery. I've gotten to be in Italy twice.
Oh, lucky.
So I did 2.5 years at Camp Darby, and then I did 2 years in Vicenza, Italy. And at Vicenza, I was the command veterinarian for United States Army Africa.
Oh, how fun.
So I didn't spend as much time in Italy as you'd think, because I spent a lot of time on the African continent.
Did you have to work on camels?
No, I did that in Kuwait.
In Kuwait? Yes. Weird. And you served in Saudi Arabia.
So I was stationed in Kuwait, but the mission included Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Dubai, the entire UAE, Oman, Egypt, Kuwait, and then later, at a different time, both Jordan and Qatar.
Wow. Where in Saudi were you in Riyadh?
No, I actually never went into the center of the country. I had mission on both sides, so both Dammam and Jeddah.
Oh, wow.
So one of the things that a lot of folks don't realize about the Veterinary Corps in the United States Army is we handle food inspection. And we are a DoD asset in that factor, in the fact that we are the only service in the Department of Defense that has veterinarians. So if a soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, Guardian, Coast Guard, anywhere in the world puts it in their mouth, the U.S. Army Veterinary Corps has looked at it somewhere along the way, either to determine that it's okay or that it's something we don't have to worry about because it's produced in a country that has good controls, or it's so safe that we're not concerned about it. And that drives a huge amount of our travel. While I'm stationed in Kuwait, we have dairies, egg producers, meat packing plants in a lot of these places that fuel the contracts that feed our dining facilities and our soldiers all over.
So all of the food inspectors, that would make sense that they work for the hospital.
Actually, we generally don't. They generally work in the public health commands.
The public health commands. Now, is that why you would be a commander for the commissary, the defense commissary?
So once again, not a command, because that's a very specific job in the United States Army. I was the director of health and safety for the commissary agency for about 3 years. So 237 stores in 17 countries worldwide. And so I had a 14 personnel team that handled all of the safety side of it. So OSHA and all that. It was the first time I had to do that side of the mission. So that was a huge learning curve. And then all the food inspection. So the commissary agency is, as far as we can tell, the only grocery store system in the world that has an independent outside agency that inspects it every day.
Oh, wow.
Because the Veterinary Corps puts their inspectors in the back of the commissaries. And those inspectors don't answer to the commissary veterinary staff. We're the liaison, but I can't tell them what to write. If they go to the installation commander and say, this is a problem and the commissary is dirty, I don't have any control. The commissary has no control over that. So there is an outside source that looks at our commissary every day.
So you guys have nothing, or you don't have, well, you don't have control over it.
So I directed a lot of the recall programs and the safety processes. If there was a problem, I was the one that came in and helped write policy or make changes to fix it. Everything from our integrated pest management programs to our sanitation services to advising on how we did contracts for cleaning. So that's what we did up at the DECA headquarters. But
seems like a lot of responsibility.
It's a strategic level job, and it's a DoD asset. So I've been working at that level for quite a while now.
So this might be a nice little relaxation tour.
One of the things as I was kind of analyzing things and working through what BJACH's mission was when I got down here is it's a little different because instead of being about 3 miles wide and a mile deep, it's about 500 feet wide, but it's 3 miles deep. So while the scope is narrower because it is focused on our community here, because the hospital is such a linchpin for the community as part of our morale, and what makes this a great place to live is our access to health care. It's incredibly deep in what we do and all the different layers and levels, everything from our labor and delivery to our emergency department to leaning in on our public health department here on post, occupational health. It's just wildly broad in a very deep space.
Now, do you have coming in brand new the first veterinarian, first time at a hospital like this? Do you have any plans or any ideas that you were looking forward to try to initiate or anything like that?
I can't say that I have any concrete plans today because I would like to learn the organization as it stands. There is a lot for me to learn, but I do know that the twin goals of access to care for our community, literally being able to get in and see your doctor when you need to see your doctor, and then readiness, not only making certain that our service members, that the hospital services are ready to go and do their mission, but our medical professionals have the training and skills and the reps and sets they need to be effective on the battlefield. And those are not disparate, but sometimes those are hard to meet both at the same time. And that is going to be the focus, is how do I make certain that everyone on post can get to see their doctor and their doctor is still ready to do a combat mission. And that's going to be the balancing point.
Yeah, that's to get people in, to get everyone in to be seen in a timely manner it's all about manpower, and with the manpower it is, there's only so many doctors and there's only so many hours in a day. So there's a lot of backup sometimes.
And even beyond just BJACH or the Department of Defense, right now, nationally, we have a shortage of healthcare providers. And that has effects into the Department of Defense and right down into BJACH, in that I may have an opening to hire a doctor or a nurse, but is there someone available to hire? The Department of Defense, we may have a space for a green suitor on our books, but have we been able to assess somebody into the military and train them up? And the AMED is short, the Army Medical Department is short, the medical system in general in the United States is short in a lot of different areas. And so we're fighting that, and that affects our access to care. But I still think that BJACH, we've been doing a really good job so far, and I'm going to do my darndest in the next 2 years to make it better.
Sounds like a goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah, sounds like a good goal. Do you know of any programs where maybe a PA or like a technician over at the hospital, enlisted technician, are there any programs that might help them or encourage them to go back and become a doctor or become a physician's assistant? Or
so the Army and the Department of Defense have very good green to gold type programs. Baylor University USHUs that help our service members further medical training if they want to do that. We have a number that just get out, use their GI Bill to go back. We have a number that take advantage of the Health Profession Scholarship Program to get their medical school or dental school or veterinary school paid for. as if they're on active duty, and then they owe a service obligation when they come back in. So there are assets and opportunities, and your recruiters have got a lot of that. Our hospital recruiter is really good with that. So if our soldiers express an interest, we can generally get them lined up with a program that will help them get there.
What really caught me by surprise is when a doctor comes into the military, they're not coming in as a normal officer. They're not coming in as an O1 or a second lieutenant. That really caught me off guard. And then I started thinking about it's like, well, it kind of makes sense. You have 8, 10 years of 20 years of education. It just never seems to end. You're always learning something new.
Well, and who was it that said if you're not still learning, you're dying? I forget who it was that said that, but
the way I say it is I forget who. I also forget who said it, but education ends with school, but learning ends only with life.
That's another good way to put it. So one of the ways it was explained to me, as most officers would assess out of a university program as a second lieutenant, 4 years of college, second lieutenant. And then you go into perhaps some advanced individual training. And your AIT might be 9 weeks, it might be a year. And just like our enlisted in their AIT make marks and get promoted, as a doctor or a veterinarian, you graduate with your bachelor's degree. Your vet school or your medical school is the AIT. That is the advanced individual training that we do. And so mine was 4 years, and the average officer in the first 4 years of their career will make captain. So we're assessed as captains.
I get it now. It does make sense.
It makes sense when you think about it that way, but it does seem a little odd. And then oftentimes if we have people that have specialties or civilian experience, if you got out of veterinary school for us and went and worked in a private practice and then came in, you've got more skills, and we offer some constructive credit. So we have some folks that come in either as a captain with a few years under their belt, or they may assess as a major. I met a dentist once who assessed as a lieutenant colonel. He'd been teaching at a university program for 20 years, and they brought him on as a 05. And he was a hoot and a half to work with, because he kind of knows about 3 inches of the Army and 5 miles of dental. And he was very aware of his gaps, but he loved being in the military, and he was just being the best soldier he could be with 3 years under his belt
and 20 years experience.
Yes.
That's kind of honestly, I think that's a recruiting tool right there. Just, it's like, we know you're putting the time in, and we're going to make it worth your while.
Well, and he was recruited because very specifically he was involved in research that the military wanted for recovery of battle wounds in the Middle Eastern wars.
Oh, wow.
So he was doing tooth bud research and on regrowing teeth. And the Army wanted that skill.
Growing teeth?
Regrowing teeth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know we can regrow teeth.
Well, he was working on it. And the Army's like, we want you. And they went and specifically looked for him. So we do that in the medical sometimes. Is we go out and we look for a certain skill set that we want.
Like headhunting.
Literally.
That's interesting. That is very interesting. So, Paul, as a Judge Advocate General, JAG, you don't have your own jet like the TV show.
No, still waiting on it. Apparently, they're on back order.
Oh, on back order. How long have you been in?
Yeah, so I commissioned as an officer in May of 2000. So I just clipped over 23 years. So, yeah, about 23 years as a officer and about 20 years as a judge advocate. So I came through an ROTC program out of Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska, and then went to law school at the University of Nebraska. So yes, I am a proud Nebraska Cornhusker, even though we've obviously not been doing as well as most SEC teams for the last 20 years.
Or so.
Been a judge advocate for about 20 years now, and before that I was a signals officer.
Signal officer?
Yep.
You get the little flags on your.
I did. I wore the signal flags proudly for 3 years, and then became a judge advocate.
That's like the only emblem I know, because when I was in Vicenza, I got to be in a movie, and I was playing a signal officer. So I had the actual real lapel pins from my commander, because he was in the signal unit or signal brigade. He was a signal officer. Mm-hmm. So what exactly does a JAG do?
Well, we actually operate in a variety of different legal disciplines. It can range from client service disciplines, such as legal assistance, which in the military setting is frequently very much kind of like legal aid for service members, only unlike legal aid in the civilian world, it's not means tested, meaning that you don't have to be poor in order to be able to be eligible for that. And in that setting, you're dealing with a wide variety of issues, everything from landlord-tenant law. You're dealing with debtor-creditor issues. You can be dealing with wills and trusts, which is a great deal of what legal assistance attorneys deal with. Immigration law, in some instances. Pretty much anything that a general practice attorney could be dealing with. As you move through the other disciplines, we have military justice, which is principally deals with matters like courts martials, administrative separations, both on the officer and the enlisted side, as well as instances of non-judicial punishment. You've got administrative law, you have, which is in its own separate discipline. You have international operational law, which we now refer to as national security law. We now have folks that operate in cyber law, as well as a variety of other more niche disciplines, labor and employment, environmental, so on and so forth. It's a pretty
wide
broad
spectrum.
Yeah. It is. A judge advocate would not necessarily touch every one of those disciplines in the course of a military career, but they would usually end up, hitting 4 or 5 in the course of a natural career for an officer.
Do you ever deal with copyright law?
No, that's a very specialized area. So intellectual property, or IP as we call it, that's highly particularized, and we actually have attorneys at Fort Belvoir at U.S. Army Legal Services.
No, we need them here.
Yeah,
we need them here because I have to deal with copyright law a lot.
I hear you.
Try making a music video with copyrighted music. You can't do it.
It's a challenge.
And then I found out that there's like different copyrights. There's if you go out and sing a song, it's one copyright. If you use someone else's song and put a video, or just to make a video or a slideshow, that's another copyright. It's totally different than just using the song. It's like, oh wow, I learned a lot the hard way.
Those mistakes can become expensive.
But then I find there's on YouTube, they have, I swear it's got to be a robot or something, because I'm getting copyright infringement on the national anthem. And the more I delved into it, it's like, okay, the national anthem itself is not copyrighted, but the performances.
Versions of it are.
Yeah. But they keep trying to pull copyright. They're saying, we own the copyright and you can't use it. Of the United States Army band playing the United States national anthem. I went back at them and they said, oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that the United States Army probably owns the copyright on those performances.
I think so. They were, I would do like a change of commands and retirement ceremonies, and we would open up with the national anthem, and they would try muting me and saying copyright violation. It's like, no, don't you dare. Went over there and kicked them. So have you found, or do you Colonel Wilma, do you foresee any problems or hurdles that you might stumble upon coming up, learning the ins and outs of running a hospital as opposed to running a veterinarian command?
So I've spent I've actually spent the last 2 years running the Defense Centers for Public Health Aberdeen in DHA out of Aberdeen Proving Ground up in Maryland, which is not at all veterinary-centric. In fact, that's 8 service lines of different things. Only one of them has anything to do with veterinary medicine. So one of the things that I do know is at this level, leadership isn't about being a subject matter expert in what your most junior systems are doing at ground level. Leadership is about being able to resource and manage. I sometimes describe leadership at this level as being 2 things. I'm a snowplow and an umbrella. So my goal is to clear the path and to protect them from what comes from above. Because I have a hospital full of just jaw-dropping professionals who know exactly what they're doing. And
yeah, I hear your public affairs officer is really awesome.
Okay. For those of you that can't see into the room, he's buttering my PAO who's sitting at the other end of the table. But no, I don't need to know how to run an operating room because I have fantastic professionals who are experts in that. And I have security experts, and I have administrators, and I have budget people, and I have emergency room doctors. There is no hospital administrator everywhere knows all of those jobs. You don't need to. In fact, you're in people's way if you know too much about what your subordinates do. And Paul and I were talking the other day, and I need to find the article reference. There was a survey done, back to the whole Ted Lasso joke. Most Americans would rather work for someone like Ted Lasso than for someone who is an expert in their field.
I could see that.
So leadership at this point is about direction and vision and resourcing. It's not about getting into the weeds. Nobody likes to be micromanaged.
No.
And so I don't perceive any particular challenges with the fact that this is something new to lead. Obviously, we're going to have a lot of challenges. We're currently in a challenged environment where DHA is standing up and still getting its feet underneath it. We are resource challenged, as always. We talked about personnel. Budget is always an issue. No one ever has all the money they want to do what they need to do.
No, I sure don't.
So there are definitely going to be challenges, but those are challenges at my level to help solve so that my fantastic, dedicated professionals have a clear path and nothing in their way.
I love it. I love to hear that. It's to have a commander trust their subject matter experts and allow them to do their job is something that every worker wants to hear, or everyone wants to hear. That's the kind of leader. It's the Ted Lasso thing. It's the saying that I've heard about hospitals that doctors are their worst patients.
Oh, we're terrible patients. Even as a veterinarian, we're terrible patients because I want to tell my primary care provider exactly what's wrong with me and exactly what they're going to do to treat me. And at some point, somebody looks at me and says, "Ma'am, you don't have paws. And so therefore, we're going to do this for you." Right. I'm the patient.
Well, and in truth, I mean, if you look at most hospital administrators, or if you look at CEOs of most hospitals out there, most of them aren't doctors.
No, they aren't.
Most of them aren't. I mean, and in the veterinary context, I mean, veterinarians are a very diverse, set of skill sets. I mean, the current CEO of Pfizer right now, I think his name's Albert Bourla. He's a veterinarian by training.
Well, pets need some medicines too.
Oh, that's true.
But most of what Pfizer makes goes into the human medicine stream.
Yeah, it does. I guess it does. Pfizer.
The skill set, sometimes I like to describe veterinarians as Swiss Army knives. We may not be the specialty tool that if you had a full toolbox, but we're kind of what you want in your pocket if you just need someone who can get the job done.
I've seen those shows. Somebody gets shot and it's like, quick, take him to the veterinarian.
Well, interesting enough, SF teams oftentimes prefer to have a veterinarian assigned to their their ODA teams as opposed to an actual human doc. I mean,
well, that's
I know
human doc.
I realize a lot of physicians out there would probably take issue with that characterization, but if you're talking about an ODA team that actually has military working animal, you get 2 for 1.
Well, that and a veterinarian is less likely to ask you what's wrong.
There are some good comparisons from veterinary medicine to neonatology, infant medicine, because at the end of the day, your patients don't talk to you
much.
Well, they have a language all their own.
Yeah.
And you're totally dependent on their caretakers for treatment and interpretation. So just like when you're dealing with infants, you're interpreting, they're communicating on their level, and you're dependent on the caretaker to administer medications and to tell you what the symptomology is, what they're seeing. So it's a challenge.
Have you been to the veterinary? Just out of curiosity, have you gone over to visit the veterinarian?
I have in processing checklist includes the veterinary clinic.
Nice. Have you been to the canine unit over?
I have not yet. 9 days I've not gotten out there. So
we've got all kinds of animals on this installation.
Well, that was our PAO was talking. They just did a small piece because we have animals out on north that are part of the culture and the environment for our
training,
service members as they're training, because so many of the places we go are still agricultural based, where animals are commonly just running around in the streets.
And goats and donkeys and...
Absolutely.
I haven't seen a camel yet.
So the Army tried a camel corps in the late 1800s.
And that's why we have wild camels in America someplace.
Yes.
Out in the deserts.
Yeah, so somebody thought the camels were desert animals, and we have this Mojave thing, and that would be great. And it turns out it's a different type of desert. If you've
just a little
bit, yeah. So the camel corps didn't go anywhere, but there's still 2 bases in California that have original Benicia and one down in Southern California that are some of the part of the original U.S. Army Camel Corps.
Probably Huachuca. That's out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, the Navy still has the dolphins and the seals for the time being. Animal form of the seals.
Oh, I was about to say, really? You've got the seals, and then you've got the dolphins. They're the elite SEAL team.
I think they're working to phase out the dolphins.
I would have to check back on that.
Yeah, they're looking to phase them out with drones.
That's going to be hard to duplicate. What those animals do for us is pretty impressive. Most of them work harbor patrol for us.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. They're very territorial. They have exceptional recognition skills. And if you are not someone they recognize and you are somewhere that you are not supposed to be, they are very loud and very aggressive. And they're very big and they're very fast. So they do harbor patrol for our Navy.
That is so cool. I didn't know that.
And they use a few other marine mammals as well. Some of them in training round recovery. So when the Navy fires dummy rounds, those are expensive pieces of equipment. Well, you can send a sea lion that's trained down to identify where it is and then take a crane out, hoist it up, and reuse that $30,000 piece of equipment.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, and those animals they're very well taken care of, and they have great retirement programs, just like we do. But those animals are exceptionally well kept. But they do some great work for us.
That's so neat. So you're well, I know that you're from California, from Hayward. How was it? Are you a San Francisco fan or an Oakland fan?
So growing up in the 80s in the San Francisco Bay Area meant that you were a 49ers fan and an A's fan.
Gotcha. All right. Just making sure.
Yeah. So a little bit of split personality there.
Now, were you around for the was it the Narrows? The World Series earthquake.
The Rattle of the Bay.
The Rattle of the Bay.
Yes.
Yes. I remember seeing that on TV, and all of a sudden everything starts shaking, and the Nimitz Highway, which was a double-decker highway, that was...
Yeah, that was... but there was a lot of good analysis done afterwards, despite the loss of life in that incident. The World Series was actually credited for saving hundreds of lives, because that freeway that collapsed is normally bumper to bumper at 5:15.
Not that day.
Not that day, because everybody had either stayed late shuffled off from work early, didn't go in at all, was at the ballpark. They were somewhere they could be glued to a TV.
And wasn't that like the Freeway series? That was the A's versus the Giants.
That was local, because that was the original. It was supposed to be Battle of the Bay.
Yeah.
And so it became Rattle of the Bay.
The Rattle. Oh, that's where you get it.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the awful joke.
Is that I'm thinking the Whittier Narrows. That was Southern California.
That was Southern California.
Yeah, that's the one my family was in. So, but they were okay. We go through earthquakes in California, unless it's something huge, we don't even pay attention.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't even feel
Nope.
small ones anymore. My grandmother, who grew up in upstate New York, she worked with my parents at their business for years and years. And she'd come down to work in the morning and she'd be like, "There was an earthquake last night. Did you feel it?" And we're like,
"No."
And you go through the newspaper or the news reports, and there was like a 1.3 magnitude that was somewhere out in the valley.
Can you even feel those?
My grandmother could. What's the piece of equipment they call the seismology? Yeah, they could have replaced one of those with
seismograph.
Seismograph. She was really good at that. And we would just be like, if it ain't over 3.5, I don't even notice.
No waves in the pool.
Yeah, didn't happen.
The way I like to explain it, earthquakes are to Californians what hurricanes are to Louisianans. If it's not a category 4 or 5 and coming right over you just throw a party.
I was in Kosovo with K4 Alpha in the summer of 2002. Summer of 2001. And, 2002. Sorry, I'm confusing. I was having this moment of, wait a minute.
It all blurs together.
Yeah, it does. And I was actually on the phone with the TOC, and the vet office was up on the top of the hill next to the confinement facility, because that's where the MPs were. So we shared a building because the military working dogs.
Uh-huh.
So they put the vet clinic at the other end of that building. So it's a temporary building up on stilts on the top of this hill, and I'm on the phone with the TOC, and the building just pops. And it felt like somebody had backed into it with a Humvee on the other end of the building. But I was also, the first thought that ran through my head, being the Californian that I am, is I felt like a P wave. And if you grow up in California in your science classes, you get all of the science of like P waves and T waves and how they travel differently through the earth, because that's something that matters to us. And so I was like, that felt like a P wave, but we're in Kosovo. This is not. And the TOC on the other end's getting excited. They're like, we'll talk to you later, click. And they signed off. I walked outside and walked around the building looking for what had hit the building. Didn't see anything. Walked back inside. TOC's calling me back. They're like, yeah, we just had an earthquake. And I was like, oh, I guess I was right. But it was so out of context that I second guessed myself.
It's weird to see or to have natural disasters or natural events like that in areas that you're not used to. There was one a long time ago, I think back in the 20s or something like that. There was a big earthquake in the Midwest, and it caused like dirt geysers. It was so weird just to look into the stuff and like that. It's like, oh, okay. But yeah, we had like here. The hurricanes, we've had several of them since I've been here, and one of the latest ones actually came right up and went right over my house.
Oh wow!
We got the eye wall and everything, and luckily the house wasn't damaged, but my chicken coop was demolished.
Oops! Yeah,
it rolled over. That was crazy. So you've been to Kosovo too. So I've been to Kosovo too. So we're like this.
As I like to say, it is a small Department of Defense.
It is. It's crazy. And when I got to Kosovo, it was like one day. I got there and it was in the middle of winter. It was like December. It was December of like 98. Yeah, December of 98, and the snowflakes. When they opened up the back of that C-130, the snowflakes were like the size of grapefruit. It's like, oh, great. And that was and then from there, I stayed there the night, and then that's when they separated our little group, and they sent me up to Tazar, Hungary. And I thank God every day for that one, because I had a blast in Hungary. We got to go up to Budapest and have some goulash,
Nice.
some venison goulash. And then after I got back, I called up my mom and I said, Mom, you've lied to me all these years. She's all, what? And I said, that stuff that I liked so much that you call goulash, that's not goulash. That was chili mac. She goes, well, how was I supposed to know you're going to grow up and move to Hungary?
That is one of the joys of
My life is a lie.
that is one of the joys of being able to live and travel like we do in the military, is you just get to really see other cultures right where they are and without the filters.
Exactly.
Or,
Yeah.
you get to see how they live and experience that. And it really is, it's eye-opening.
It was great.
Know that feeling.
So everywhere we went, they were all inviting and nice and all that stuff. It's like, oh, this is so cool. And that's when I learned that Budapest was two different cities, separated by a
river.
river. But it's not the Danube, is it?
Mhm.
I think it is
Yep.
the Danube.
It is the
Danube.
Danube.
Look at that, man. I'm just a geography guy now.
Yeah, we went. We were lucky enough. One of the last times we were traveling in Europe, we got to go up to Budapest and spend a long weekend. And it turned out inadvertently to be the weekend of the Red Bull air races. So
Ooh, how fun!
and they were using one of the bridges as a starting gate. They'd close the bridge and they were popping airplanes under the bridge as their starting gate. And of course, you're just like,
Did you get any pictures?
You
We got a few.
You got some good photos of that.
Oh,
Yeah, it was one of those random, like, we didn't even know that was happening when we planned it. Once again, one of those great things about living in Europe is you get these 4-day weekends and you just get to travel.
yes,
It's so easy. Everything's close.
it was great.
So, as a military member, it's like if you get that opportunity, grab it.
Absolutely grab it. One of my favorites was living in Italy. I would try to get someplace without taking the autostrada. So I'd have to take surface streets, and back then we didn't have GPS.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, so how do you navigate through Italy? You pick the place that you want to go and then know all the places in between.
Yep, because you keep looking at the road signs.
Yep. And just take the road signs until you get there. And
it's
I
the
had
fine
so
art
much
of
fun
getting
doing
lost.
that. Exactly. It was great. And I was on a motorcycle at that. So it was fun.
So you might see me running around post. Some people come home from their tours with different souvenirs. I came home with a Fiat 500.
Little Cinquecento.
So my little Cinquecento is parked over at my house right now. You'll see her running around post.
Is it one of the new ones or one of the old ones?
1970.
Oh, bring that over. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, so if you see me kind of on the shoulder doing 35 miles an hour, put, 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 put.
They used to have.
it's the hospital commander.
They used to have roving gangs of Cinquecentos over there. As a matter of fact, Portia in our office over here, I think she has a 500 Fiat 500. But that's one of the new ones.
I've seen a few of the new ones parked around post. They used to use them as rally cars in Italy. They, kind of the old like Herbie the Love Bug kind of rally racing.
Yeah.
They used to do that in Fiat 500s, those
How
little
funny.
Cinquecentos in Italy.
That is so funny.
I'm like, okay, that's scary.
I had a Fiat Panda.
Oh,
But it was awesome because I got it for $500.
Yep.
And then I crashed it, and then it's like, okay, so where am I going to find another $500 car? And somebody was looking to to trash their car, and over there you have to pay to get rid of it.
Oh, yep.
So I said, I'll take it off your hands. He goes, well, the brakes are horrible and they're going to need to be completely. I got the brakes replaced for like $375 in a free car. It's like, sweet. And then I turned around when I left. I sold it for $500. I said, the only thing that I would like you to do is keep it running, keep it drivable, and then when you leave, sell it to somebody for $500 with the same. Because I was hoping to start
Pay it
something.
forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought that was so cool. I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm so glad you guys came. You guys have anything that you would like to say as brand new residents and workers of Fort Polk?
Super excited to be here. We got to come down in March for kind of a little bit of a right seat, left seat, and the community is just so awesome down here. Everybody, one of my colleagues calls it the Polkisms. There's a lot of military members who are down here for just 30 days in the box, and it's meant to be miserable. But the community here and the main post and the little town of Leesville, just absolutely delightful. And everybody's been so warm and welcoming. I'm just super jazzed.
Oh, yeah. Just wait and you got here just in time for festival season.
we were noticing that last weekend. It seemed to be, you look it up and it's like, wow, what isn't going on?
Yeah, there's several of them that you want to make sure that you get to. The Pirate Festival down in Lake Charles, which just happened, so you missed it this year, but there'll be one next year. The Zwolle Tamale Festival, the Watermelon Festival, the Strawberry Festival. I think there's the Festival. There's Mayfest, June Fest, July Fest.
Awesome.
If there's a fest, or if there's any reason to have fun, Louisiana's going to do it. They're going to have a festival about it.
Well, it's kind of like Europe in many ways. I mean, in small towns in Europe, you end up having lots of different festivals, usually based on either the history of the area or the particular crops or what have you. So, I mean, in that way, Fort Polk is, given how isolated it is from larger cities and such, it's much like a lot of overseas assignments to smaller installations that are much more isolated. I spent some time at Grafenwehr training area, and the base and the town in Grafenwehr in Germany is very, very similar to kind of what we've got going on here. I would say obviously Fort Polk's a little bit larger, but yeah.
It's great, and I'm sure you'll find even more stuff to do. But I appreciate you guys coming in, Colonel Wilma, Colonel Alisa Wilma, and Lieutenant Colonel of the Reserves, Paul Butler. Appreciate you guys coming in, and hope to have you back sometime.
Absolutely, thank you for having us.
Or just tell Gene to get you on there, and I'll get you on here. Or whatever else you need. I'm Jeff England from the Fort Polk Public Affairs. Thanks for tuning into probably the last, or one of the last Fort Polk podcasts until we change our name to the Fort Johnson something or other. But we'll be listening at you later.
That was easy.